Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corman Productions. Hopefully, your new source of coronavirus quarantine entertainment. Here to talk about This Is Us, Season 4, Episode 16, New York, New York. As usual, this is not a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, I suggest stopping now and then coming back to me after you've watched it. This episode takes place over 3 different timelines, all trips to New York. There's the preteen timeline, which I actually don't have much to say about this week. It's perfectly fine, but it didn't inspire too much commentary from me. During the teen timeline, the family is going to visit Kevin and Sophie in New York. With the exception of Kate, who is no doubt suffering from the aftermath of her dealings with Mark. Her 5 seconds of screen time is pretty much the last that we see of Teen Kate for the season, and that's kinda a little bit disappointing. We do see the teen actors in the next episode, but it's basically from stories that Randall is telling that never actually happened, therefore it doesn't really count. I think the creators must be listening to my videos because they gave me a little bit of what I've been asking for, which is I wanted to see teen Kevin's life in New York and his marriage to Sophie and him trying to act. The family, which includes Rebecca, Randall, and his girlfriend, are going up to see Kevin's monologue showcase. From the beginning, it's pretty clear that Randall is not taking this too seriously, and he looks like he'd rather be anywhere else during most of this episode. After the show, Kevin asked Randall what he thought of his performance, and Randall doesn't even really try to sound convincing. Niles Fitch as Randall does a pretty nice job here, acting a lot in the background. A little less so later on when they're in the restaurant. I think he was a little too obvious with his performance there. I would have preferred a little bit more subtlety. Rebecca decides to go to the Met by herself, and Randall starts freaking out, resulting in Kevin calling him out, basically suggesting that she can take care of herself, wondering if he's going to spend the rest of his life worrying about his mother. And yes, it pretty much seems that at least for the next 20 or so years, Randall will be doing exactly that. And that's kind of Rebecca's fault. Rebecca should have told him that she is indeed a grown woman and that she could take care of herself and that Randall should go live his life. Randall in turn calls Kevin out for trying to fix up their mother with his mentor. Kevin makes the point that their mother cannot spend the rest of her life feeling sad about Dad, and that she should be allowed to move on, which is extremely interesting coming from Kevin. I completely agree with him, but at the same time, this attitude doesn't quite jibe with his later problems with Miguel. It makes his problems with Miguel make even less sense. In the first season, and maybe even a little bit in the second season, Kevin had an obvious issue with Miguel, which I thought boiled down to, basically, he wasn't Jack. It was an objection to his mom dating anyone that wasn't his father. But in this episode, Kevin demonstrates that he is perfectly fine with Rebecca moving on and dating someone else. So what then is Kevin's issue in the future? Does it boil down to the fact that Miguel and Jack were best friends? Which, I can see the problem if they got together right away, but they didn't. This is many years apart. So I'm not entirely convinced that Kevin's attitude here is consistent with the character that we first saw in the first season. Randall here is very much consistent with the character we've seen all along. This tension becomes important for the rest of the season. This scene also demonstrates the tension between Randall and Kevin. Randall's resentment towards Kevin for taking off, an idea that was introduced in the cabin, and I'm not sure it was ever really explored before now. The real meat and potatoes of this episode takes place during the present-day timeline. We start off with Kevin and Kate waiting for a video call from Randall. They have no idea what Randall wants to talk about, but Kevin says that Randall said it was a code red, which apparently is pretty important. Hopefully this will not involve Jack Nicholson telling Tom Cruise that he can't handle the truth. And doubly hopefully, there will actually be some people who will get that reference. Kevin is taking his mom to his movie premiere, and Randall has said that he will join. And he calls up to tell Kevin and Kate that the reason he is coming up is to convince Rebecca to do a clinical trial in St. Louis, which will involve her moving down there for 9 months. Kate doesn't seem to know what to think, but Kevin is reluctant from the get-go. Kate suggests that it'll be up to their mom to decide, and Randall absolutely agrees with Kate. It'll be up to their mom, but he's gonna want to know what they think. And Randall wants them to get united behind saying that St. Louis and the trial is what's best for her. Randall asks Kate if she's on board, if she will support him, and she agrees to do so. Kevin is a great deal more reluctant. Kevin makes the point that they don't even know that this is going to work. And 9 months, when you're having serious cognitive decline, as Rebecca is having, is a pretty long time. But eventually says yes. What really annoyed me with this conversation was the fact that Miguel was nowhere near it. Because Miguel, the one that Rebecca is married to, should very much have been involved in this conversation. The family's, and indeed right now Randall's, complete dismissal of him is something that aggravated me during the course of this episode to no end. Randall says he'll make it to New York around noon, and that they will discuss the trial over lunch with Kevin and his mother. Later, Kevin is in New York with Rebecca, and she's trying on a dress, which she's very excited about wearing during Kevin's premiere. She asks him if she could walk the red carpet with him, which she has never been interested in doing before, but now with her serious health issues, Rebecca wants to try it out, and Kevin is more than happy to oblige. Randall arrives, and when the two brothers are alone, Kevin asks for a simple favor. Hold off on discussing the trial until tomorrow morning. Give Rebecca the night. Because she's all excited about it, she's all excited about the dress and walking on the red carpet. Just give her this moment. Randall isn't overly enthusiastic about this, but he gives in to Kevin, and Kevin thanks him for it. Later, Kevin and Rebecca are walking on the red carpet. Rebecca is seemingly having a really awesome time. She's really enjoying herself. Randall watches on. It's really hard to tell what he's thinking, but he doesn't look happy. Perhaps he's a little resentful of his brother. Maybe a little bit of jealousy is in play. But what I think he's feeling at this moment is that this is all a giant waste of time. He is single-mindedly focused on the mission. Nothing else matters to him. Everything else is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is convincing Rebecca to do this trial, so that Randall can save her life. At the premiere, Kevin leaves Rebecca and Randall to go talk to some people that he knows, which is part of his job. They are talking to someone that Kevin knows, and Rebecca is struggling to remember the name of the plaza and has to be bailed out by Randall. Now, mind you, this could happen to anybody. Anybody could struggle to remember the name of something. But Rebecca is a little bit more sensitive to this at this point, because it could very well be evidence of her illness. Randall looks for Kevin to make sure the coast is clear, and you cannot convince me that he's doing otherwise here. He is absolutely making sure that Kevin is nowhere near them. He takes this moment to bring up the trial, going back on his word to Kevin. Kevin eventually notices them talking and having a serious conversation, and Kevin knows what's up. And sure enough, his suspicions are confirmed. Rebecca defends Randall, and Randall tries to play it off as merely comforting Rebecca. And I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. You saw an opportunity and you took it. You didn't really care about how Kevin felt about the matter. All you saw was your objective. All you saw was your mission. Rebecca takes this opportunity to leave, to get out of Dodge, to avoid having anything to do with the argument that's about to ensue. And then the argument resumes. Kevin tells Randall that he promised that he would wait till the next morning. Randall says that he was just trying to give her hope because she was upset. And Kevin was just trying to give her one night that was not about losing her mind. Kevin suggests that Randall might not be the only person to know what's best for her, their mother. Randall says that he's been taking care of their mother for 20 years. And once again I have to ask, hey, what about Miguel? Are you telling me that he's had nothing to do with taking care of Rebecca during this time? According to Randall, not so much. Randall brings up the fact that at any moment, Kevin can take off from Morocco and shoot a film or live in trailers for a couple months like he did at the beginning of the season with Nikki. And he's right. Kevin is extremely flighty. He can't seem to sit still or settle down. And my theory about that, by the way, is that Kevin is running away from the pain. He's like a shark. He has to keep swimming, keep moving. Otherwise, he will acknowledge the fact that he hurts deep down, and he doesn't want to deal with that pain. Now I feel that Kevin has made some strides, this season in particular, towards doing exactly that. But Randall doesn't see any of that. Randall doesn't give him any credit for that. Kevin comes back with the fact that the acting career, the very one that Randall has never taken seriously, is going to be the thing that is going to help them pay for Rebecca's treatment. Because Randall, on his councilman's salary, is certainly not going to be able to do it. They notice that they can't find Rebecca, and they scramble to find her, eventually finding her at the Met. The Met, which Rebecca has failed to get back to in 2 other timelines. She finally gets to be there now. She explains that as a kid, which we briefly saw before the credits rolled, she was at the Met and found herself staring at a lady who she was fascinated with because she was just sitting there, endlessly staring at a painting. Even when she left that spot to stop looking at the woman, as they were leaving, hours later, that woman was still there. Rebecca says there's a lot of things that she hasn't been able to do in life, that she said that one day she would do. Her time to do those things is running out. Regardless of when the disease finally takes its toll, Rebecca is running out of time. She tells them that she isn't going to do the trial, and she doesn't care what they have to say about the issue. She wants to spend her time doing all the things that she was afraid to do, that she put off, like going to movie premieres, or taking trips, or spending time with the family. Kevin has been listening this whole time with empathy clearly in his face. He tells her, "Whatever you want, Mom." Randall looks like he wants to argue, but wisely doesn't at this time. She tells them at that moment, she just wants to be there with the 2 of them and be like that woman who had all the time in the world to stare at a painting. As they are about to part company, Randall says to Kevin that this could have saved her life. Kevin tells him that he needs to let it go, it's not what she wants. Randall comes back with, she doesn't know what she wants. She's scared. And I would argue that it's him that's scared. He's scared to lose his mother. To me, it seems pretty clear what she wanted. She expressed it in no uncertain terms. Randall says he spent every day of the last 20 years wondering if he could have saved Dad. Tells Kevin that they had one opportunity to save their mom, and he blew it. Translation, Kevin, you just killed our mother. Kevin, much more calmly than I would be, and much less upset, tells him he's sorry he feels that way, and he also couldn't have saved Dad. Which is very different from what he says to him in the finale, but we will get there. Randall asks him, do you ever wonder what life would be like if Jack had survived? And Kevin says he doesn't, and asks Randall if he does. When I first saw this episode, I thought Kevin was aggravated with Randall and shutting him out. He had just been accused of being responsible for their mother's death in the future, and I thought he was just shutting him out, not willing to share a piece of his soul at that time. Upon rewatch, I don't quite see the same thing. Kevin is still giving Randall empathy, despite what Randall just said to him. I still don't quite believe Kevin here. I'm sure he's thought of it from time to time. But what he hasn't done is what Randall does, which is endlessly analyze and imagine new scenarios. I kind of see myself as a mixture of both Kevin and Randall. I have Randall's overanalyzing mind with Kevin's heart and his empathy. Kevin leaves, finally, getting into the car, presumably driving Rebecca back to the hotel, and he definitely looks upset. Randall, meanwhile, is imagining the night of the fire, the night where Jack died. Jack is on the ledge of the house ready to go back in to save Kate's dog, which is likely the reason Jack died, because he inhaled too much smoke doing that. Randall yells that if he goes in there, he's going to go and get Jack himself, which changes Jack's mind, and he leaps off and joins his family. This time, in Randall's mind, he doesn't die. And this idea is the basis for the next episode, which we will talk about in the next video. In the meantime, that's all I have for you guys for this week's video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. This is Dave from Cormorant Productions, signing off.